the afternoon of January 15th, 2009, the US Airways Flight 1549 departed from LaGuardia Airport, New York City. It was a very regular flight on a very normal day. After they take off for 90 seconds, something happened. When they are climbing through the altitude of 2,800 feet, they hit a flock of birds.
What?
Then, some of the birds were sucked into the engine, causing both of them to stop working. Then immediately, then all of a sudden, it becomes terribly silence, which you have never experienced when you are flying. Then after that, now the airplane became a giant glider and losing its altitude rapidly. So it's a very dangerous emergency situation. And immediately after they find out what happened, they decided to turn back to LaGuardia Airport. However, soon after that, they realized that there is no sufficient altitude for them to turn back. So they might hurt other people if they crash short of the runway. So they decided to land it on the Hudson River. And finally, the aircraft safely landed on the river, and all the people survived. People call it the miracle on the Hudson. And after that, the captain of this flight published his autobiography called Highest Duty. So, in this book, he told us what he has experienced, what caused the good outcome, and how this event affects his life and his family. He said that he treated his pilot's responsibility as his highest duty. So he did every part of his job very seriously. And that is the reason why he can successfully do the right decision making and finally landed the aircraft on the Hudson River successfully. This has inspired me very much because we seldom hear about highest duty. Instead, we hear bottom line a lot much more. And people tend to lower its standard because of various reasons. Like students don't want to learn something that is not going to be in the test, and workers don't want to do something additional which are not required by their superiors. But I think we don't need to fly very high or do something remarkable in order to have a highest duty. Take myself as an example. In my previous work, I was working in my job was to maintain these $10 billion US dollar flight simulators, and it is exact. In the interior, it is exact the same with real aircraft. It is used for training the pilot. And I have some secondary responsibility. I am responsible for doing the rostering for my whole team. And when I treated my colleague, I treated them as my internal customer. So whenever they need help, I help them as well as I can do. So whenever there's a need, there's a shortage of manpower, when I needed them, they are very willing to help me, and finally we could go through this weather together, and finally we have a good outcome, and people are happy with it. So with my example and the Sally's example, dear fellow Toastmasters and guests, let us find out our highest duty and try to do more than the bottom line. One day, I believe, you will find it as a critical factor that you can that can bring you through all the challenges you might face in our lives.